Hello, and welcome to the Bedtime Sleep, a calm place where science becomes a lullaby, where the wonders of your body, your brain, and your universe unfold like dreams. If you're ready to rest, to let your thoughts drift on quiet tides, you're in the right place. We invite you to subscribe for gentle new journeys each night, and if your thoughts wander, share them with us in the comments. Your questions guide our path. Now, close your eyes if you wish. Take a slow breath. Tonight, we begin with the beginning not of the universe, but of you. And not the first word you spoke or the first step you took. No, we'll go further back. To the first flicker of attention. To the moment before thought. You were born into silence. Even before sound becomes sense, before light becomes form, something inside you begins to listen. Your tiny body, still curled from the womb's rhythm, is surrounded now by color, by temperature, by the distant hush of voices and wind. And your mind, that soft, electric sea, starts to stir. Inside your head, a billion neurons are waiting. They don't yet know who you'll become, but they reach for each other like seedlings underground, threading connections where none existed before. A newborn's brain is not a map. It is a landscape before paths are carved, damp with possibility. You lie in someone's arms. You do not know what a mother is. You do not know the word touch. And yet, the warmth of skin registers like a sunrise through clouds. You blink. You flinch at brightness. And without knowing it, a tiny signal ripples through you. Notice this. This is the beginning of learning, not by memorizing, not by understanding, but by being awake, by sensing, by opening to the world, without knowing yet that you are separate from it. This is attention, and it's one of the oldest skills your brain possesses. Even animals just hours old turn toward motion, react to light, follow sound. For you, as a baby, attention is the quiet skill that shapes everything after. When you turn your head to a lullaby, when your eyes follow the swirl of a mobile overhead, your brain responds with joy, not in the emotional sense yet, but in the neural sense. New pathways form. Synapses spark. This is not passive. It's architecture. Each time you pay attention, even without choice, your brain begins to organize itself. Neurons that fire together begin to wire together. And like tiny campfires lighting up a dark forest, a pattern emerges. This is the first map. It's not of places or people or rules. It's a map of response, a map of meaning. You learn, long before words, that some things bring comfort. A familiar voice, a soft hum, a breast or bottle, a quiet room. You begin to predict without knowing you are predicting. You expect the warm blanket. You recognize the motion of being held. This is how memory starts, not as story, but as rhythm. And rhythm, it turns out, is everything. The heartbeat you heard in the womb never fully leaves you. Your brain, even in its earliest weeks, begins to match itself to pulse, to tone, to the rise and fall of what surrounds you. You learn to listen not with ears, but with patterns. If someone sings to you, even nonsense words, your brain treats it like a lesson. The melody becomes a guide. The spacing of syllables, the repetition, the gentle rise and fall, all of it teaches you about timing, about connection, about structure. Later, this will become language, but not yet. Right now, your brain is building the tools. The foundation stones of logic, of meaning, of sound and order, all of it formed from exposure, not explanation. From presence, not performance. No wonder then that your first months are filled with watching. You look at faces longer than anything else. Because faces move. They shift. They speak. They smile. And your brain, hungry for pattern, is drawn to that rhythm. The symmetry of eyes. The curve of lips. The subtle shift of expression. You are learning emotion long before you can feel it fully. You are learning relationship before you even know your name. This is what scientists call experience-dependent development. It means your brain doesn't just grow from the inside out. It grows by meeting the world. The cells in your brain, called neurons, are not born knowing where to connect. They wait. They wander. They reach out, and with each sight, sound, and sensation, they form bridges, synapses, highways, habits. And during this early time, the first days, weeks, and months, your brain is more adaptable than it will ever be again. It is plastic, like soft clay. This is what makes young minds so fast. They are ready. They don't resist change. They become change. This is called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to shape and reshape itself in response to experience. And in infancy, that plasticity is like springtime. New growth everywhere. Fragile, yes, but overflowing with possibility. Still, all of this happens quietly. You don't feel your neurons connecting. You don't hear the pathways forming. But like roots beneath a garden, your mind is shaping itself, hour by hour. Each blink, each yawn, each glance toward the window or the ceiling fan or a flickering shadow, these are not small moments. They're the curriculum of your first classroom. And you are the architect of it all. No lectures, no textbooks, just the world and the wonder of your attention. That's why, even as you sleep now, your mind remembers how to learn. The patterns laid down in those earliest moments still echo. They guide how you notice, how you react, how you open to new things. That first attention, the spark before thought, never truly goes out. It just grows quieter, buried under years of knowledge, of labels, of habit. But it's still there, like a lighthouse under moonlight, still spinning, still watching. And as you rest tonight, your own mind continues to listen, to light up, to build new bridges, just as it always has. Because you never really stop learning. You only forget how natural it once was. And tomorrow, or in the next chapter, we'll wander deeper into the soft clay of your mind and the way the world wires itself into you. The spark has been lit. In those first quiet moments of life, your brain begins to wake. Not all at once, not loudly, but gently, like dawn behind closed eyes. That flicker of attention we spoke of, it doesn't fade. It deepens. It stretches. It learns to listen with more than just the ears. Now, you begin to take in the world not as scattered sensations, but as threads to be woven. Every sight, every scent, every heartbeat you feel through someone else's chest, it leaves a mark. Your brain, still so new, so ready, absorbs the outer world and begins to make it its own. And so begins the great wiring. Imagine your brain as a vast city, still under construction. The streets are unpaved. The lights are dim. But the architects, your neurons, are everywhere, planning and building at breathtaking speed. You are not born with a complete blueprint. Instead, your brain grows by meeting the world. Each moment you spend awake becomes a lesson in how to wire yourself. Touch becomes a signal. Sound becomes shape. A smell becomes memory. And slowly, steadily, those signals begin to find their paths. A soft blanket brushes your cheek. Not just a feeling, but an imprint. The neurons in your sensory cortex light up, marking the texture, the temperature, the comfort. If it happens again, those neurons fire faster. The path strengthens. The clay firms into a mold. This is experience sculpting biology. Your world doesn't just influence your brain, it builds it. And in these early days, your brain is not cautious. It doesn't wait for certainty. It welcomes everything. The sharp sounds, the warm arms, the shifting shadows. Because every input offers it a chance to connect, to arrange, to decide what matters. This process, this great shaping, is called neural pruning and growth. At birth, your brain is overflowing with possibilities. Too many neurons, too many paths, too much chaos. So it learns by trimming. Like a gardener tending wild vines, your mind begins to strengthen the branches it uses and quietly let go of those it doesn't. The more often you see a face, hear a lullaby, feel a hand, the stronger that connection becomes. Neurons that fire often stay. Those that don't fade away. What remains becomes you. Your early understanding of people, space, sound, and emotion. Even the simple act of being held, swaying in rhythm with a heartbeat, lays down patterns that later help you read emotion, understand speech, and recognize safety. The warmth of another person regulates your brain's chemistry. It teaches your body what calm feels like. And soon, your mind starts to predict what will come next. A rattle shakes, and you turn. A door creaks, and you blink. A song repeats, and you begin to expect the next note. These are small things, but in the neural world, they are revolutions. Because this is how you learn anticipation. And with anticipation comes the foundation of thought. Not just reacting, but preparing. Not just sensing, but imagining. This is what makes your brain different from any computer. It doesn't wait for instructions. It guesses. It tests. It adjusts. It's alive. And it keeps adjusting every moment you're alive. Right now, even as you lie still, your brain adjusts its pathways. It strengthens what's used, rewires what's weak, and grows new branches in the background. You may not notice, but deep inside, you are still learning. This is why early experience matters so deeply. Because in childhood, the boundaries between the world and the self are still soft. A lullaby is not just heard, it's internalized. A parent's face is not just seen, it's mirrored. A gesture of comfort doesn't just soothe, it sculpts. Your brain is not a camera, storing images. It's a potter's wheel, shaping clay from what it touches. And in this molding, you begin to form your idea of reality. For instance, if you are surrounded by kindness, your brain learns that people are safe. The emotional centers of your brain wire themselves to trust. If your early world is loud and unpredictable, your stress systems wire differently, preparing you for uncertainty instead. These patterns are not permanent, but in early life, they form deeply, because your brain doesn't separate what it learns from how it learns. Experience becomes structure. Structure becomes habit. And habit becomes identity. But here's something beautiful. Even in this rapid molding, your brain keeps a space open. A space for wonder. For learning without knowing it's learning. And that space is filled, moment by moment, through sensory exploration. A child touches everything. Not just because it's fun, but because touch is understanding. You mouth objects, crawl toward colors, stare at ceiling fans, laugh at your own reflection. These are not distractions. They are studies, early research, the first experiments. Your brain processes all of this with breathtaking speed. The visual cortex deciphers shape. The auditory cortex separates tone from noise. The parietal lobe maps your fingers, your toes, your turning head. This is why, in early childhood, the brain grows more in 2 years than it will in the next 20. It's laying foundations. Every new input, a new smell, a new taste, a new voice, doesn't just add knowledge. It changes the wiring. And yet, this change doesn't feel like work. Because your brain doesn't experience learning as effort. It experiences it as discovery. This is the secret of young minds. They do not learn because they are told to. They learn because they are wired to wonder. And all the while, your brain listens, not just to the world, but to itself. It begins to understand its own rhythms. It senses patterns in thought, feelings in response. Soon, the baby who once just stared begins to recognize, to choose, to reach, to want. And that desire, that gentle pull toward knowing, is where we'll go next. Because you don't only respond to the world, you begin to shape it. You crawl, you point, you babble, and your brain, ever plastic, ever alert, adjusts again, learning not just from the world, but from the movements of your own body. So as you drift now, as your body softens into the rhythm of sleep, imagine your early mind glowing with growth, wiring new maps, letting go of old ones, listening, always, for what comes next. Because what comes next is motion, and motion is play. There's a moment, just before you crawl, just before you stand, when your world becomes movement. You begin to reach for more than sound and light. You reach for experience. From the quiet wiring of the world inside you, something stirs and stretches outward. Not just your limbs, but your mind. You move through space, and your brain moves with you. And every wiggle, stumble, grasp, and giggle becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of your mind. This is the playground of neuroplasticity. Your brain's quiet, magical ability to reshape itself with every touch of life. It's not a skill you switch on. It's not something you do once. It's your nature. And never is this more vivid than in early childhood, when every movement becomes a message and every repetition becomes a rhythm the brain remembers. You stack blocks, not just for fun, but to practice balance, planning, cause and effect. You crawl under the table, not to hide, but to map space, to test boundaries. You mimic a face, not to impress, but to understand what feeling means. These are not just games. They are construction. Every repeated action you take leaves a deeper imprint. Neurons don't simply fire, they rewire. Like dancers returning to the same floorboards, they carve new grooves into the brain's pathways, smoothing and strengthening them with each try. So when you fall and try again, your brain celebrates. Not because you succeed, but because you tried. Because neuroplasticity is not built on perfection. It's built on practice. Even the smallest actions, blinking at a new sound, turning toward a voice, holding a toy for 1 second longer, become rehearsals in your inner theater. And the stage is alive. Regions of your brain light up like constellations each time you move. The motor cortex, planning motion. The cerebellum, balancing your tiny frame. The sensory cortex, decoding feedback from fingers and toes. But beyond all of these is something quieter. A sense that each moment is changing you. Not just shaping how you think, but what you believe you can do. And belief, even in its earliest form, is powerful. When you succeed, even by chance, dopamine flows like a gentle tide. This isn't about pleasure. It's about reinforcement. A soft signal from your brain saying, yes, do that again. And so, you do. Again and again and again. And what begins as accident becomes skill. And what begins as chance becomes choice. This is how play becomes learning. How games become patterns. How babble becomes speech. You drop a spoon and laugh. You drop it again and wonder. You drop it once more and learn that gravity always answers. And in that repetition, your brain begins to expect, to model, to remember. The playground of your mind is not made of swings or slides. It's made of chances, endless invitations to experiment without consequence. And this safety, the freedom to fail gently, is what makes early learning so fast, so fluid. Because without fear, your brain stays open. It does not brace. It flows. Neuroplasticity is like a river. ever shifting, carving deeper banks where the water runs often. And just like a river, it shapes the land beneath without you seeing it. Even when you rest, the river moves. At night, as your body grows still, your brain replays the day's play. It strengthens what mattered. It softens what didn't. It rearranges the maps. This is sleep's quiet gift. The chance to rehearse without moving, to build tomorrow's learning in the silence of dreams. And so, you wake slightly stronger, not in muscle, but in memory, in motor control, in curiosity. And again, you reach. Again, you tumble. Again, you laugh. And each moment becomes a rehearsal for life. This plasticity doesn't end with childhood, but it's never again as free, as wild, as fearless. Because in youth, your brain doesn't yet filter. It says yes before it says why. It tries before it hesitates. And this openness is your greatest teacher. Even the sound of your own name, repeated, sung, whispered, begins to root into your identity. Not because you understand it, but because you hear it in joy, in comfort, and play. And your brain learns that it belongs to you. Piece by piece, play by play, you begin to know the difference between outside and in, between noise and music, between randomness and meaning. This is the miracle of neuroplasticity. It doesn't give you answers. It gives you the tools to shape them. So each day, you play, not knowing you're building emotional regulation, not knowing you're preparing to read, to run, to speak. Just playing. And in doing so, growing. Because you are not a blank slate. You are a living, writing, rewriting story. And every scribble matters. And as you drift now, as your breath deepens, remember, you do not need to try to change. You only need to engage. Your brain is listening. Your brain is responding. It always has been, and it always will. But soon, the rhythms of play begin to take on a new shape. Not just motion, but music. Because something else begins to bloom inside you. Something with tone and melody, with cadence and meaning. Something that will become the next great playground. The music of words is waiting. You don't remember the first word you ever heard, but your brain does. It remembers the rise and fall of voices, the slow rhythm of lullabies, the quiet hum of comfort that wrapped itself around you long before you understood a single syllable. And in that humming world, something ancient awakens. Because before you ever speak, before you ever name a single thing, your brain begins to listen, not just to sounds, but to patterns. And those patterns are where language begins. At first, it's just melody, the tone of your mother's voice, the rhythm of footsteps in the hallway, the way certain phrases seem to come at the same time each day, before sleep, before food, before laughter. These repetitions don't feel like teaching. They feel like music. And your brain, so young and open, doesn't need to study. It absorbs, like dry earth soaking up the rain, like a sponge drinking sound. Language, at its heart, is not about words. It's about structure. The way sounds are shaped and spaced, the pauses between them, the pitch that rises like a question or falls like a good night. This is called prosody, and it reaches you first. Before vocabulary, before grammar, even before memory. Your brain hears the music of speech and starts to anticipate it, to predict where the song goes next. And in that guessing, you begin to understand, not with thoughts, but with feelings. You know when a voice is gentle. You know when it's firm. You know when someone's sound means love or caution or silliness. Because long before you grasp the meaning of no or yes or come here, you grasp their tone, and your brain builds a map of emotion and intention through sound alone. This map lays the groundwork for language, not through flashcards, not through lessons, but through presence. Imagine your neurons now, entangled in a dance of sound and silence. Each word you hear presses into that dance like a new step, a new rhythm, and soon your brain begins to pick favorites. It learns the most common syllables, the names repeated with smiles, the greetings, the requests, the daily songs. This is the magic of statistical learning. Your brain keeps track of what it hears most, and slowly, gently, it begins to separate words from noise. You don't even know you're doing it, but you are slicing up the stream of sound into meaning. You are segmenting speech like a river breaking into familiar currents. You begin to recognize that mama is not just a sound, but something important. That bye-bye always comes with waving. That oh means something has changed. This is the first spark of semantic connection, the knowledge that sounds carry meaning, that they belong to things, to people, to feelings, to actions. And all of this unfolds before you speak a word. Because speech, when it finally arrives, is just the echo of 1,000 silent understandings. You babble first, long strings of sound, rhythmic and bright. Babiedada, mama, guguji. This isn't nonsense. It's rehearsal. Your mouth and your brain are learning to coordinate. The motor cortex practices movement. The auditory cortex listens for feedback. The brainstem times the breath. Language is not a switch you flip. It's a symphony your body learns to play. And during this early period, something extraordinary happens. Your brain is so flexible, so plastic, that it can learn any language on Earth. No accent, no confusion, no delay. A baby in Tokyo or Lagos or Paris or Lima is equally ready. Their brains are waiting for the world to choose their language. And once it begins to arrive, the shaping begins. In bilingual homes, children don't get confused. They get enriched. Their brains build 2 maps, not 1. 2 sets of rhythms. 2 styles of grammar. Twice the dance. Because to the brain, language is not a burden. It is joy. It is curiosity. It is play. And just like earlier, in the playground of motion, repetition becomes the key. The more you hear, the more you babble. The more you babble, the more others respond. And the more they respond, the more your neurons wire up to recognize sound, meaning, and relationship. You're not just learning to speak. You're learning to connect, to participate, to belong. That's why language is more than information. It's intimacy. The words spoken to you are soaked in tone, gesture, and eye contact. They teach you not only what to say, but how to feel what someone else might mean. This becomes the seed of empathy. To sense not just language, but the heart behind it. And over time, you grow fluent not only in words, but in faces, in pauses, in laughter, in tone. Your brain ties words to memory. It ties sound to smell, voice to comfort, sentence to sensation. And slowly, you begin to speak. 1 word, then 2, then a sentence, surprising even yourself. As if the words were waiting all along, just behind a door. Your brain has built a cathedral of sound. Not perfectly, not all at once, but with repetition and love and timing. And this cathedral will never stop growing. Even now, as you lie in stillness, you can hear your thoughts moving as words. Silent, internal speech. A dialogue only you can hear. And that, too, is language. Your brain continues to speak in every moment. To process, to label, to comfort, to imagine. And when you dream, it weaves stories from the same thread. Words are no longer outside you. They're you. And still, they evolve. Because the brain never stops refining its voice, never stops adjusting to meaning. So as you drift tonight, know that your mind holds not just vocabulary, but music, a rhythm of connection that began before memory, and will hum quietly even in your final dreams. And next, In this lullaby of language and thought, a new kind of memory begins to blossom. Not just words, but the feelings and fragments that stay with you. The soft, growing garden of memory. You often wonder why you can't remember being a baby. Why your earliest years feel like mist, close, but untouchable. The truth is, you were remembering long before you knew what memory meant. But your brain didn't record like a camera. It grew memory like a garden. Some memories bloomed brightly and vanished. Others rooted deep, invisible, yet shaping how you feel, how you trust, how you respond. Memory is not a shelf, it is soil. And from your earliest days, that soil was soft, rich, and endlessly open. Even in the cradle, your brain was gathering patterns. The rhythm of your caregiver's footsteps, the way your blanket smelled in the morning, the sound of birds before nap time. These were not memories you could recall, but they were memories your body recognized. This is called implicit memory, the unconscious learning that forms the background music of your life. You might not remember the lullaby, but you feel calm when you hear something like it. You might not remember the hand that soothed your crying, but your nervous system learned what calm feels like. These are the first roots of your garden, and they grow quickly. Because in early life, your brain is in a state of rapid encoding. It takes in everything. The world is brand new, and your brain, so curious, so plastic, builds systems to make sense of it. But there's something unusual about these early years. A kind of gentle forgetfulness built into them. It's called infantile amnesia, the mysterious truth that most people can't recall anything clearly before the age of 3. Why? Because memory, like language and movement, needs structure. It needs a brain that has learned how to organize experience. And in infancy, that structure is still forming. The hippocampus, a small, seahorse-shaped region deep in your brain, is the gardener of memory. It decides what gets planted and what is left to drift away. In early childhood, your hippocampus is still under construction. It tries to grow memories, but they don't always take root in ways that last. Still, they matter. Because even if you forget the moment, you don't forget the feeling, the comfort of a voice, the fear of sudden noise, the delight of a favorite toy. Your emotional brain, especially the amygdala, remembers those patterns. And so your garden begins to take shape. At first, memories are woven into senses. A smell that reminds you of someone. A sound that makes you feel safe or unsettled. A place that feels familiar, even if you don't know why. These are the earliest vines of memory, twisting gently through the soil of your brain, reaching for light. As you grow, the structure of memory becomes more layered. You begin to tell stories. I went to the park. I saw a bird. I had ice cream. These are explicit memories. The ones you can hold, narrate, share. They arrive slowly, like seedlings pushing through dirt. They require language, time, and a sense of self-awe. The quiet realization that you are the one having the experience. And once this self-awareness emerges, your brain begins to bind the pieces together. What happened? Where? When? With whom? How it felt. This is called episodic memory, and it begins to grow around age 3 or 4. Like a tree finding its shape, you don't just remember facts. You remember moments. A birthday, a fall, a smile, a thunderstorm. And the stronger the emotion, the deeper the roots. Because your emotional system waters the garden. Excitement, fear, joy, even confusion now. These emotions tell your brain, this matters. Keep it. But memory isn't perfect. It's not a photograph. It's more like a painting that changes each time you look at it. Every time you recall a memory, you rewrite it. You add new brush strokes. You smooth edges or sharpen them. This is not a flaw. It's your brain being efficient, linking the past to the present, allowing memory to grow with you. That's why two people can share an experience and remember it differently. Each brain paints its own picture, and in childhood, those pictures are especially vivid. Not because they're detailed, but because they're felt. A single sound can bring back a whole afternoon. A single smell can return you to a forgotten room. Your memory lives not just in thought, but in body. It pulses in your heartbeat, in your breath, in the way you respond to silence. And the more you revisit a memory, the stronger it becomes. Like a path walked again and again through tall grass. But just as some paths deepen, others fade. This is called pruning. And it happens in memory just like in thought. The brain lets go of what it no longer needs, clearing space for new growth. And yet, the garden remains alive. Even old memories, forgotten by thought, can blossom in dreams or in sudden feelings we don't fully understand. Because memory isn't just about the past. It prepares you for the future. It teaches you how to feel, how to act, how to recognize what matters. A kind face, a familiar voice, a moment of safety. You learned these things long ago, and your brain has not forgotten. As you rest now, your memories settle quietly. The brain replays what it needs. It lets go of what it doesn't. You may not remember your dreams, but your mind still gardens while you sleep. It clears old weeds. It strengthens deep roots. It makes room for tomorrow. And tomorrow, new memories will come. Some fleeting, some deep, some full of laughter, some so soft you may not notice them until years from now. But all of them will become part of your story. Your growing, breathing, changing story. And in that story, there is a chapter that begins with play, with pretending, with imagining, with learning not by instruction, but through joy. Because next, your brain learns best when you're not trying, when you're simply playing. You may not remember the first time you played, but your brain does. It remembers the thrill of turning nothing into something, a block into a tower, a box into a rocket, a sound into a story. Because from the very beginning, you didn't need instructions. You just needed curiosity. Play is not a break from learning. It is learning, wrapped in joy. And your brain knows this better than any book. It watches every time you pretend, build, imagine. And it celebrates. Because through play, your neurons make meaning. This kind of learning is called experiential. You discover through doing, not by being told. You put the puzzle piece in the wrong place. Then try again. You mix the colors and see what happens. You stack the blocks too high and watch them fall. And your brain whispers. That's how it works. Try again. Try differently. Each attempt is not a failure. It's a feedback loop. And every loop strengthens your mind's flexibility. This is executive function in action. Your ability to plan, shift, wait, and solve. All rehearsed, not in classrooms, but in sandboxes. A game of hide-and-seek becomes a lesson in anticipation. A dress-up session becomes an exercise in identity and empathy. A made-up story teaches narrative structure and emotional depth. Even when you play alone, your brain is in conversation with itself, asking, testing, imagining what could be. And all the while, your motor cortex practices movement. Your prefrontal cortex plans and evaluates. Your limbic system connects joy to discovery. This is the neural symphony of play. It's not chaotic. It's beautifully orchestrated. And unlike formal learning, play removes pressure. You're not trying to perform. You're exploring. You're safe to make mistakes. In this safety, your brain thrives. Mistakes become data. Repetition becomes rhythm. Imagination becomes blueprint. You build a castle from cushions, and suddenly you're learning physics, balance, weight, angles, all absorbed without a single formula. You talk to a stuffed bear, and suddenly you're practicing dialogue, tone, empathy, perspective, all rehearsed through softness. You assign roles. You're the doctor. Your friend is the patient. Suddenly, you're testing responsibility, memory, and kindness. These are not games. They are simulations. As real to your brain as any test, because your brain doesn't separate pretend from prepare. When you imagine, you activate the same regions used in real experience. To your brain, pretend is practice. This is why play is so powerful, even as you grow older. Your imagination continues to shape your mind. You rehearse conversations in your head. You picture goals. You solve problems by trying them on mentally first. This is cognitive rehearsal, and it begins in childhood play. But there's another layer, something even more magical, because play doesn't just teach facts. It teaches flexibility, the ability to see one object, a stick, as a wand, a sword, a spoon, a microphone. This is symbolic thought. Your brain's capacity to hold two realities at once. What something is, and what it could be. And symbolic thought is the root of all creative thinking. Engineers use it. Artists breathe it. Scientists need it. It begins with pretend. It grows through play, and it flowers into possibility. In play, you also learn emotion. When you play house and pretend to cry, you begin to understand sadness, not as something that happens to you, but as something that happens to others too. This is emotional literacy. It blooms when you give your teddy a bandage, when you comfort a doll, when you wait your turn, because even in make-believe, your brain learns the very real lessons of being human. And when you play with others, a new world opens. You begin to coordinate, to negotiate, to listen and adjust. Games become group projects. Rules are invented, then changed. Boundaries are tested. Trust is explored. This is social cognition, understanding others, and understanding yourself in relation to them. No one teaches it directly. You learn it through laughter, through conflict, through compromise. And in those moments, your brain is sculpting the future you, the one who will work, share, lead, and love. So when someone says, they're just playing, smile gently, because play is never just anything. It is everything, compressed into joy. And though the forms may change, from dolls to drawings, from tag to technology, the essence stays the same. The brain learns best when it's free. And even now, as your grown mind rests, play is alive inside you. When you dream, you combine memory and imagination. You explore without consequence. You solve puzzles made of feeling and fantasy. In dreams, your mind plays, and that play still teaches. So rest now. Let the softness of night become your playground. Let the clouds in your thoughts shift and transform. And as you drift, know that the games of your early years were never wasted. They were the roots of creativity, the seeds of empathy, the hidden curriculum of your becoming. And soon, as you begin to wonder not just how you learn, but why you remember some lessons so deeply, we'll step into the quiet mystery of emotion and how it shapes the brain's deepest grooves. You might think the brain learns by reason, through logic, repetition, and facts. But beneath all that rhythm, another pulse guides what stays and what fades. Emotion. It is not a distraction. It is not separate from thought. It is the silent sculptor of your mind. From the moment you were born, emotion flows through you. Raw, wordless, powerful. The comfort of a voice, the shock of cold air, the warmth of being held. These sensations are not labeled, but they are felt, and your brain begins to mold itself around them. Inside you, the amygdala, a small almond-shaped cluster, listens carefully. It does not think. It feels. And when it feels, it acts. It sends signals. It marks moments. It says, "This matters." Because the brain is not neutral. It pays attention to what moves you. Joy, curiosity, fear, frustration. They aren't just emotions. They're signals. They tell your brain, "Build here. Remember this." That's why a lesson tied to emotion is remembered more deeply. You might forget what day it was, but you remember how someone made you feel. A smile from a teacher, a moment of pride, a time you were afraid or brave or seen. These are the memories that settle in the deepest soil. Even in play, emotion directs learning. Laughter makes repetition delightful. Frustration signals a challenge. Excitement keeps you coming back. And slowly, your brain learns not just the task, but the feeling of learning. If discovery feels safe, your brain stays open. If failure is met with calm, your brain tries again. But if learning is tied to fear or shame, your mind begins to close, protecting you, even from what might have helped. This is the emotional gatekeeper. It doesn't care about test scores. It cares about safety, about belonging, because at its root, emotion is connection. A baby cries and someone comes. That's not just comfort. That's wiring. The brain learns, "I matter. I'm not alone." Over time, these lessons deepen. You begin to tie feelings to events, to faces, to spaces. And those ties build emotional memory. Not just what happened, but how it felt. Your hippocampus stores the facts, but your amygdala stores the color, the temperature, the pulse. And when those two work together, a memory becomes vivid. Think of your first best friend, your first day at school, the time you got hurt, or the time someone made you laugh so hard you fell over. These aren't memories made from dates and details. They are made from emotion. Even the tone of voice used with you, gentle or sharp, warm or cold, becomes a guide. It teaches you not just what to say, but how to speak to others, how to comfort, how to respond. Because emotion isn't just personal, it's relational. You read it in others. You feel it in groups. You adjust without thinking. This is emotional intelligence. And it begins early, when a caregiver mirrors your expression. When they smile back, furrow their brow, or coo in return, your brain begins to learn. My emotions are seen. They matter. That mirroring shapes your sense of self. It teaches you how to name feelings, to regulate them, to express them safely. And even now, your brain listens for that echo. When someone understands you, really feels what you feel, a soft bridge forms, oxytocin flows, and trust deepens. This chemical dance of emotion and connection is not fluffy. It's not extra. It's survival. Because emotion teaches what facts alone cannot. Who to trust, when to act, how to care, what to avoid. Emotion shapes judgment, memory, behavior, often before you even notice. And the more supported you feel, the more resilient your brain becomes. Support doesn't erase struggle, but it changes how your brain interprets it. In challenge, if you're held, emotion teaches strength. In failure, if you're encouraged, emotion teaches growth. And slowly, your brain learns that effort is not danger. It is possibility. So as you lie here, still and quiet, know this. Your brain listens to every feeling you have. It does not ignore them. It uses them to protect, to remember, to grow. Even your dreams are colored by emotion. Revisiting unfinished stories, shaping healing through metaphor and feeling. And tomorrow, when you wake, your emotional memory will guide what you notice, what you care about, what you choose to learn next. So breathe now. Feel the softness of your pillow, the calm of this moment, and know that your mind is not made of numbers and rules, but of joy, ache, wonder, and light. Emotion is not weakness. It is wisdom, the oldest kind. And as this wisdom shapes your brain, another layer begins to emerge. A system so vast, yet so deeply personal. The biology of connection. How your inner world is shaped not just by others, but by the tiny life inside you. The unseen orchestra of microbes, silently guiding your thoughts and moods. There's a secret inside you, a quiet world too small to see, but vast enough to shape everything you feel. This is your microbiome, an invisible garden of trillions of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and tiny creatures, living in harmony within your body. Most of them dwell in your gut, nestled in the winding maze of your intestines, where they feed, grow, and speak, not in words, but in signals. They are not strangers. They are part of you. From the moment you were born, even before your first breath, they began arriving, passed from your mother, from touch, from milk, from earth. They found your warm body and made a home. You are their forest. They are your keepers. And though they are small, they play a role so large, it still surprises science. These microbes help you digest. Yes, but they do much more. They guide your immune system. They produce vitamins. They protect you from harmful invaders. And, maybe most mysteriously, they talk to your brain. This is called the gut-brain axis, a shimmering bridge of nerves and signals that connects your belly to your thoughts. When your gut feels calm, so do you. When it churns, your brain listens. You felt it. Butterflies before a test. A sinking feeling with bad news. A warm calm after a good meal. These are not coincidences. They are conversations. Your inner garden whispering upward, reminding you that your mind and body are never separate. Some microbes even help shape your mood. They help make serotonin, a chemical that brings peace, ease, contentment. Others send signals that influence memory, attention, even how you respond to stress. And as you grow, your microbiome grows with you, adapting to what you eat, where you live, how you feel. Each person's microbiome is as unique as a fingerprint, a quiet signature of life lived, experiences had, environments touched. When you play outside, when you cuddle a pet, when you eat something new, you invite new guests into the garden. And with care, they flourish. But when your world narrows, too sterile, too rigid, too afraid, the garden weakens, diversity fades, and your brain may feel it too. Because the healthier your microbiome, the more resilient your mind. This is why we now know that mental health begins, in part, in the gut, and the gut, in turn, responds to how you think, how you sleep, how you live. It is a loop, a delicate circle of nourishment and feeling. So when you eat something rich in fiber, fruits, grains, greens, your microbes celebrate. They feast. They send thanks in the form of short-chain fatty acids that nourish your gut lining and soothe your brain. And when you laugh, when you feel safe, when you rest, your microbiome thrives. It becomes more balanced, more harmonious. This is co-regulation. Your emotions and your microbes tending to each other. You help them. They help you. even the act of sleeping. Right now, as you breathe slowly in the dark, is healing your gut, repairing cells, resetting rhythms, letting your garden rest. And while you dream, your microbes continue their gentle work, sending signals, balancing chemistry, shaping how you'll feel tomorrow. You are not a single being. You are an ecosystem, a whole living symphony, wrapped in skin. And in this harmony, your brain finds balance. It listens not just to thoughts, but to the whispers of cells, the hum of bacteria, the quiet wisdom of your inner world. Even your cravings, your energy, your sense of calm, they may be guided by the invisible decisions of your microbiome. This is not scary. It is beautiful. It means you are connected on levels too small to imagine, yet too important to ignore. You are never truly alone. The life inside you grows with you, adapts with you, rests with you. And tonight, as you lie still, your garden sways gently, tended by unseen hands, whispering calm. So breathe deeply. Let your belly rise and fall. Feel the unseen rhythm within you. A lullaby sung in molecules, carried by cells. And as your thoughts grow soft, as your breath settles into the dark, know that this hidden world, this garden within, is keeping watch. Tomorrow, you will wake, nourished not just by sleep, but by connection. And soon, your journey will move outward again, into how you see the world, how your brain filters the flood of sights and sounds. Because next, we step into the delicate art of attention, how your mind chooses what to hold, and what to let fade like mist. Close your eyes. Notice the dark behind your eyelids. Not empty, but full of possibility. And within that dark, imagine a beam of light. Narrow, soft, searching. This is your attention. Not your eyes, not your ears, but the part of your mind that selects. You are surrounded by sensation, sounds, colors, smells, thoughts, touch. A constant stream of life flows around and within you, but you cannot hold it all. So your brain shines its light on just a few things. It chooses what to feel, what to hear, what to understand. This spotlight is precious. It is your mind's way of saying, this matters right now. Even as a baby, your brain was learning this skill. To look longer at a face than a blank wall. To turn your head toward a voice. To fix your gaze on something that moves. This was not random. It was your brain practicing how to filter, how to guide your growing thoughts toward the world's most important clues. As you grew, this spotlight became more powerful. You learned not just to react, but to choose. To listen to one voice in a crowded room. To focus on a puzzle while music played nearby. To read a page while birds chirped outside. These are not small feats. They are signs of your brain's remarkable design. Because attention is not just noticing. It's ignoring, too. To focus on one thing, you must let other things go. This takes energy. This takes effort. And your brain has a system for it. A quiet dance between three major networks. The alerting system, which keeps you ready. The orienting system, which guides your focus. And the executive system, which decides where the light will shine. These systems work together like a crew of stagehands. They adjust the brightness. They shift the angle. They close the curtain when needed. But attention is not constant. It flickers. It moves. And this is normal. Your spotlight scans the horizon, then settles. It drifts with daydreams. It returns when needed. It learns, over time, how to stay longer, especially when something is meaningful, because your attention follows emotion, what you care about, what surprises you, what delights or unsettles you. These things catch the light. That's why a child can focus for hours on play, but only moments on a lecture. Emotion guides focus. And when you are deeply focused, something beautiful happens. The world around you fades. You become immersed. This is flow, a state where attention and action blend. In flow, time softens. Thought becomes fluid. Your brain uses energy more smoothly, and learning deepens without strain. Even now, as you lie in stillness, you feel the spotlight moving gently inside. Your attention shifts from breath to thought to sensation. You are not broken for wandering. Your attention is simply alive. But attention is also fragile. In a world full of pings and flashes, your spotlight can be hijacked, pulled toward novelty, fragmented by noise. When this happens too often, your brain grows tired. Your focus thins. That's why rest matters. That's why silence heals. When you sleep, your brain clears distractions. It restores the strength of focus. It helps you begin again. And slowly, you learn to guide your spotlight more gently. You notice which thoughts deserve attention, which feelings need space, which sounds bring peace. You learn that you can choose your focus, not just let the world choose for you. And this, in time, becomes wisdom. To pause, to breathe, to place your attention like a candle on the thing that matters most. Attention also affects memory. What you notice, you remember. What you miss, you lose. So attention becomes the first gate of learning, and it is opened not by force, but by interest. Your brain remembers what sparks you, what makes you lean closer, what feels alive. That's why learning through play, through emotion, through wonder, works. Because attention follows what is real to you. Even your dreams hold traces of attention, symbols from the day, feeling still in need of light. And tonight, as you rest, your spotlight dims. It settles inward. It no longer scans the outside world. It folds into stillness. But inside your brain, your attention is still shaping the path for tomorrow, preparing to light up what matters, preparing to ignore what doesn't. So sleep now. Let your mind soften. Let your spotlight rest. And as it fades into the quiet, know this: where you place your attention is where your mind begins to grow. And next, in the soft dark ahead, you'll begin to understand how the structure of your brain changes with everything you learn. Because attention is only the beginning. What comes after is the art of change itself. So here you are, again, at the end of a quiet journey, one that began with a spark, and now settles like dust upon still water. You've traveled through thought, through memory and play, through hidden gardens and silent spotlights. And as you lie here, your breath slow, your body warm, your mind rests in one last, gentle truth. You are changing, always. Not all at once, not with loud cracks or sudden turns, but moment by moment, light by light. You are becoming someone new. The last chapter left you with the soft beam of attention, a spotlight your brain learns to guide. But what happens after the light shines? What happens to the things you notice, to the feelings you explore, to the stories you tell yourself again and again? They don't just pass through. They build you. This is the final miracle of learning. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change its own shape. Through every experience it touches, your thoughts leave footprints. Your emotions carve paths. Your memories and movements lay down trails like roots beneath the surface. And over time, those roots become trees, branches, habit, understanding, self. You are not a machine with fixed parts. You are a living forest, growing toward the sky. Every time you pay attention, a signal travels along a thread of neurons. And if you pay attention again, the thread strengthens. It becomes easier to follow. It becomes you. This is how practice works. Not through magic, but through repetition that rewires reality. When you learn to walk, or read, or comfort a friend, you are not just adding knowledge. You are adding structure, new synapses, stronger circuits, whole bridges of brain tissue, forming simply because you tried. And each time you try again, the bridge widens, the path becomes smoother, the action becomes easier. So the story of your brain is not written in stone, it is etched in sand, shifting with the tides of life, even in sleep, perhaps especially in sleep. Your brain continues this quiet work. It prunes what's no longer needed. It strengthens what was practiced. It wraps some memories gently in emotion and lets others fade like fog. Sleep is not silence. It is a gardener, tending to the roots of you. And tonight, your gardener is busy, not with weeds or worries, but with growth, with arranging the puzzle pieces of the day, turning play into skill, turning attention into knowing, turning experience into shape. This shape is your mind, not a place, but a living rhythm, always learning, always reforming. You are not who you were yesterday, and tomorrow you will be something more, because everything you've explored on this slow, soft journey, from sparks and stars in your baby brain to the spotlight of your grown attention, has left a mark. Each chapter was not just a story. It was a mirror, reflecting how your body feels thought, how your emotions choose what you remember, how your play plants creativity, how your microbes whisper into your moods, how your attention shapes what stays, and underneath it all, a quiet rhythm. Repetition becoming reality. This is not a race. It is not a test. It is not a ladder. It is a dance, a breathing, bending, spiraling dance of becoming. And you are still in it, even now, as you lie still, with nothing left to learn tonight. Your brain is not idle. It listens. It hums. It waits. It waits for tomorrow, for sunlight, for sensation, for another chance to reshape itself in response to the world. And it will, because you are not static. You are not finished. You are growing, gently, quietly, wonderfully. And if you ever wonder what you've truly learned, remember this. You've learned how to focus, how to feel, how to connect, how to remember, how to imagine, how to become, not through noise, not through speed, but through softness. And in that softness, you've become strong. So let the final thoughts settle. Let them rest where they may. There is nothing else to hold tonight. Only this. You are not just a learner. You are learning. Alive in motion. You are not just a mind. You are a mind in bloom. And tomorrow, you begin again, with a brain sculpted by play, by care, by light, by you. So close your eyes, sink into the quiet, and let this journey stay with you, not as noise, not as information, but as warmth, the warmth of knowing you are growing, even now, especially now. Good night. From all the quiet places, inside your ever-changing mind.